Imagine being handed once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl tickets, not just any seats, but 30-yard line front-row dream-come-true tickets to see your favorite team. Picture the printing ink still glossy on the passes, the cold of the tickets in your hand, that electric little thrill in your chest that says this is going to be a memory I'll tell my grandkids about. Now imagine discovering your own boss stole them from you. That's what happened to me. But here's the thing, I didn't just get mad. I got even. And the way he lost everything? Let's just say, it felt almost as sweet as a 49ers touchdown. If you've ever been screwed over by a boss who thought they could get away with it, this one's for you. If you like cathartic, slow-burn revenge stories where karma shows up on schedule, buckle up. I've been a die-hard San Francisco 49ers fan since I was a kid. Not casual, not I own one jersey kind of fan. I'm the painted face all-day tailgate in a parking lot kind of fan. Rain, sleet, or blistering sun, there's something ritualistic about packing a cooler, hanging a banner grilling with strangers who become friends for a Saturday, and screaming until your throat is raw. Football isn't just a game for me. It's a religion with Sundays as holy days and the Super Bowl as the ultimate pilgrimage. So when the Niners finally made it back to the Super Bowl a few years ago, I was floating on pure adrenaline. I was working at a consulting firm then, the kind with glass walls and a lobby that smelled faintly of expensive soap and stale ambition. I ran a handful of accounts day-to-day lead on some, senior on others, and one client in particular stood out. He wasn't just a client, he was someone I genuinely liked. We'd meet for drinks, after meetings argue over whether Joe Montana would have handled certain plays differently, swap stories about how corporate life chews people up and spits them out. He knew absolutely how obsessed I was with the Niners. A few weeks before the Super Bowl, he told me almost offhand, "We have a pair of company seats. If you want them, consider them yours. It's on me." He handed the tickets to the senior. Partner on his account, the partner who ran our side of the work with a suit that never looked less than immaculate, whose handshake was firm to the point of being punishing. "That guy's the one I'll call dickhead, partner. He'll surprise you," the client said. "He'll give them to you through the firm." Don't say anything. You'll love it. It should have been one of those small, perfect moments. The client, the surprise, the crowd, the bright lights, and the smell of stadium food. Instead, it became a thin, bitter knot in my chest that I couldn't get rid of. The Super Bowl arrived. I sat on my couch like the rest of the world Chip's friends over commentary blaring. We lost. It was a gut punch that lasted the entire week after, but that was football. Losing sucks. You lick a wound, you hope they come back next year. The part that felt like theft wasn't the loss. It was that tiny, quiet absence. There was supposed to be a memory there, and it had been quietly taken. A few days after the game, I met the client for drinks. We usually had good, honest conversations, the kind where work talk happens, but the relationships underneath are real. He laughed about the game, and then casually, like something someone might say in passing, asked, "Hey man, how come you didn't go? I saw someone else in those seats." My brain stalled on the word those. "What game?" I asked. The question sounded stupid in my ears, but I said it because I genuinely wanted to know. "The Super Bowl," he said slowly, like he expected a punchline, like he was testing me. When he realized I wasn't laughing, he blinked, bewildered. "You didn't go?" I felt a cold, crystalline shock move down my spine. Not like anger at first, more like someone had flipped a switch, and I was suddenly very alert, sharply aware of every small movement in the bar. The tickets. Those glossy slips of paper that had been promised to me had never reached me. Someone had taken them. Back at the office the next week, I started to ask quiet questions. Not loud, not dramatic, just small touches here and there, a raised eyebrow at the mailroom, a joke in the kitchen. One of the secretaries, someone who always knew everything that happened and rarely had anything to do with our clients beyond scheduling, pulled me aside near the copier. She looked uncomfortable, then resigned the way people who see too much often do. "Did you hear about the Super Bowl tickets?" she asked, like she wanted to be helpful and avoid trouble at the same time. The words didn't so much hit me as coat me in ice. My chest constricted, my jaw went tight, and I felt the distinct metallic taste of fury. These weren't just strips of cardboard. They were a promise. They were my childhood me grinning under cold January light. They represented something the client had noticed had intended for me, and dickhead partner had decided he was entitled to give them to someone else. His reply was immediate and typed in rage. "Are you shutting me? On the day we flew down, the conference room had a long table that swallowed people and a wall of windows with a view that said, 'Money and Reach.' People took their seats. Then the client introduced someone I didn't. Know a woman in her 30s with a warm smile and a casual, confident air. Stephanie extended her hand with the kind of polite smile that's a smokescreen the kind actors use when they want to say something sharp and land it clean. Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there?" The client pressed the point like a surgeon pressing for a confession. "Steph, you were sitting right next to him. You remember you were paying for drinks, weren't you?" For the first time in that room, I let myself answer a little with heat. "Sorry I wasn't there," I said, keeping my voice steady but tight. The memory of an empty sideline on my living room TV made my throat ache. Dickhead partner's face shifted. A million tiny things happened at once. A tightening of the mouth, a turning of the head toward me that looked for an ally, a split-second recalculation. He had been cocky, practiced at corporate charm, and now the stage had tilted. He started to stammer. Well, he must have... He looked at the client as if bribery or a note was about to solve everything. He looked at me as if I might step in and say it was a mistake. Connected to a project? It was a perfect kettle of pressure. The client leaned in low and precise and said, "Dickhead partner, did you give those tickets to another client?" I gave them to him as a personal thank you. Probably a mix-up in the office. Someone took initiative. He must have passed them along. Dickhead partner tried the familiar softening tactics. He tried to salvage it. "I can." He opened his mouth like someone who's used to smoothing things with words. Stephanie stopped him with a look that said, "Nope." She walked to the client, smiled, and turned. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said crisply. On the way out of the building as we loaded into a taxi, my phone buzzed. It was Dickhead partner. His message was a thin, urgent thread. "Cover for the firm. We'll discuss it when you're back." He wanted me to lie, to take the fall, to paint this as a misunderstanding for the sake of the company. There are things you can be proud of in corporate life, and complicity is rarely one of them. I considered it for a breath the little ethics box that lives in your head doing its math. But he'd taken something personal from me, and now he was asking me to smooth it over to protect his backside. And if you ever find someone trying to tell you your passion doesn't matter, or that you should take a second-class piece of your life because someone else thinks they deserve it, remember that justice isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's a slow, methodical unmasking. Sometimes it's a well-timed meeting and an invoice that arrives like a leash. Mostly it's paying attention to who's actually keeping their word. Dickhead partner stole my dream night. I took his pride, his paycheck, and ultimately his client. Watching him turn red under that thin corporate light, watching his practiced answers dry up into little apologetic noises, that moment brief and perfectly exposed, was almost better than seeing the Niners win. Almost, looking back. I still wish I'd been at that stadium hugging a stranger who felt like a friend and yelling until my throat hurt. But I'll tell you this, there's something just as satisfying as victory. It's a small, clean thing called accountability, and sometimes karma shows up wearing a 49ers jersey. If this story gave you chills, go ahead and hit that like button. Tell me in the comments about the pettiest, most satisfying revenge you've ever seen. Did someone get poetic with payback in your life too? I want to hear it. And if you haven't already subscribed, because I've got plenty more stories where karma comes knocking,